Hello, my name is Peter Dunn. In this video, I will explore the 2011 film Moneyball to learn what it can teach us about the dynamics and trends that emerge when people form groups and interact. Moneyball is a sports biopic that focuses on the Oakland Athletics general manager, Billy Beane. In this story, he is trying to lead his team to a successful 2002 season after losing his best players to wealthier MLB teams. The core of Billy's problem was having to do this with one of the smallest budgets in Major League Baseball. Ultimately, his solution was to bring in Peter Brand, an economics consultant who took the radical approach of using data and statistical models to value players. Doing this revealed undervalued players, which in the aggregate led to a successful season and a widespread change in how teams are built across sports in general. The film's major success and its focuses on the themes of leadership and teamwork made it a wellspring for understanding many different academic theories and concepts of group dynamics. In particular, the input, output, throughput model of systems theory is on full display in this film. Systems theory is a catch-all term that simply refers to the study of systems, aka groups that are built of individuals or distinct components. Systems become exponentially more complex based on their number of components, as well as their interactions with other systems. What makes this theory useful is reducing this complexity by recognizing emergent patterns that could help explain or predict a system's properties. One of these patterns is the input, output, throughput, or IoT model, which describes the generalized workflow of a system. The course material describes it as, quote, inputs are processed by the groups and outputs are produced. Communication serves as the throughput, transforming inputs into coordinated actions, decisions, beliefs, norms, etc. End quote. In the context of this model and the Oakland athletics system, the most obvious input is Peter Brand. The course material defines an input as, quote, resources or conditions entering the system, end quote. There are numerous different kinds of inputs, with Peter Brand most conforming to one called informational. This input is characterized by, quote, data, feedback, timeframes, directives, demographics, histories, projections, end quote, according to the course material. He brings a new set of tools and information to the system that was absent and could not be generated naturally within the group. Alone, input into a system would be worthless without some internal mechanism to make use of it and change the system in some way. The IoT model identifies this process as throughput, which is defined in the course material as, quote, transformative processes that convert inputs into outputs, end quote. Billy Beane is the primary throughput mechanism for the A's, as the main source of communication between Brand's information and the rest of the organization. This model is clearly seen in the meeting when Beane first openly introduces Brand to the rest of the system, in this case, the team's talent scouts. In this interaction, the scouts are initially utterly reluctant to use Brand's data-driven approach to evaluate players. This is because, to them, Brand's input has not yet gone through a throughput mechanism. As the scene progresses, the input to throughput process becomes apparent as Beane says, quote, this is the new direction of the A's, end quote. At this point, the input is now transformed into a new set of beliefs and shared direction that the rest of the team could then act upon. This, of course, leads to an output, which the course material defines as, quote, consequences of system processing feedback into the environment or back into the system itself, end quote. Likewise, with inputs, there are several categories of outputs which have been observed. In this case, the ultimate system output of the film is an adoption of analytical team building, which falls under the category of adaptation output. Adaptation output is defined in the material as, quote, changes in policies, procedures, or practices, end quote. What this film also shows, however, is a deeper truth about outputs. This deeper truth is that the overall system output is an iterative process resulting in a combination of individual outputs becoming new inputs. The scouts, particularly lead scout Grady Fuson, are the clearest examples of this. Fusion's outright refusal to entertain Brand's information and Bean's mandate is an individual output, which in turn becomes a new input for the system to manage. Understanding this internal feedback system and how it is managed is the true key that allows systems theory to identify and understand patterns other than the IoT model. For example, Grady Fuson's opposition, while counterproductive, is ultimately not surprising. System theory predicts it with an observed pattern called homeostasis. The course material defines homeostasis as, quote, tendency of systems to maintain stability or equilibrium in response to changes or external pressures. The scouts are not being irrational. They simply exhibit a known pattern that could arise when people work together. Systems could be argued to be the most complex constructions people interact with and are a part of in daily life. Systems theory, particularly when using the input-output throughput model as a jumping-off point, seeks to bring about useful observations to this chaos. Many of its principles are seen in Moneyball, whether it's Brand's input, Bean's throughput, or Fuson's individual output in pursuit of homeostasis. Understanding that these behaviors do not exist in isolation, but rather feed off of and into each other, is paramount to recognizing patterns in an otherwise infinitely complex nature of systems. Thank you.